The year 1998 saw the first parts of a modern miracle transported into space. 2 years later, the first people called it home. Over the following years, more modules were added until in 2011, the International Space Station was complete. Located over 200 miles above the surface of the planet and orbiting the planet once every 90 minutes, the International Space Station is a wonder of international cooperation and technology. Permanently manned, it has welcomed astronauts and cosmonauts from many countries. The International Space Station is not only a place where questions about long-term space travel can be studied, it has also become an essential scientific research center where those living on board or just visiting can conduct experiments that would be impossible to complete on Earth.
This is Mars. Sometimes we call it the monster just because it's so big and it's actually pretty complicated to assemble. The purpose of Mars is to study muscles and in particular muscle atrophy in space. And now it's of course all tucked away and sleeping in its rack. But during the Futura mission, I had the chance of actually assemble it and do some calibration work.
We have two windows. They help, of course, in the operations, but also for us, it's extremely nice to have a view to the outside of our Earth. Come and have a look to their external platform and how beautiful it is outside. And from the other window, we can really have a magnificent view of our real, beautiful planet. Enjoy together with me.
This is the GEM airlock, the airlock in the Japanese laboratory, and it's used to move stuff from inside the space station to outside the space station. Most of the time it's small satellites that are grabbed by the Japanese robotic arm and deployed into their orbit. Sometimes it's experiments that need to be installed outside the station and then maybe in the future even brought back in and downloaded back to Earth. So how does it work? Let's say that I need to move something outside. So what I would do is, first of all, open this hatch. And then there is a slide table inside that slides out into the volume. So I would come here to this control panel, and from here I would be able to command the slide table to move into the actual GEM cabin. Then I would have to install whatever it is that I need to move outside, for example a small satellite, onto the slide table, and there are provisions to do that, dedicated interfaces. Then I would come back here, slide the table into the airlock and close the hatch. And at that point, with a combination of commands from this panel and these rotary switches that command a number of valves, I would be able to depressurize the airlock, so completely remove all the air that is inside, make vacuum. Most of the air we are able to recuperate into the cabin with a pump to pump it back in. Some of the air, unfortunately, we do lose into outer space whenever we do a task, an operation like this one. Then I would come back here and open the outer hatch, and once the outer hatch is open, slide the table outside. And then from the ground, typically, they would command the robotic arm to come and grab this satellite, for example, for the deployment. Once that is done, the opposite thing. Slide the table back in, close the outer hatch, repressurize the airlock, and it's ready to go for the next operation.
Back down again. We can't see everything at once. Destiny. It is my destiny to be here.
This is one of two identical robotic workstations here on ISS. The other one is in the cupola. This is typically our backup workstation. From a robotic workstation, of course, you can fly the arm, which means that you can operate and control the SSRMS, the big robotic arm that is outside the station. We use it, for example, to capture visiting vehicles that bring us cargo, or to support extravehicular activities, or sometimes even to move a big thing like an entire module of the space station from one location to another. Recently, we used the arm to move PMM. Sometimes we fly it manually, especially for support of extravehicular activities or track and capture. And in this case, we use the hand controllers. This is the translational hand controller. So x-axis, y-axis, z-axis. And this is our rotational hand controller. Pitch, roll, and yaw. Of course, I can move the hand controllers and nothing happens right now because, as you can see here on the control page of the SSRMS, the arm is off. To give us situational awareness of what's going on outside, we have cameras, and we can route several cameras that are outside of the space station, mainly on the truss, to any one of these three monitors. Of course, now they're off. And to do camera routing, zooming in, zooming out, panning, tilting, we use this control panel. It also contains a lot of controls for the arm itself. For example, very important, the safing switch. If something is happening that is not supposed to, you can safe the arm and everything stops.
Cool. Let's go on. I don't think there's going to be in depth as this. This is gorgeous. We're in node 1. We will go down this.
This is the cupola. It's where we keep our main robotic workstation. It makes sense because we can see outside. But it's also every crew member's favorite place. And you'll see why. Let's take a look. Out there you can see the SSRMS, or the Canadarm2. It's a robotic arm. It's parked out there because the ground is doing a survey of the space station. Let's take a peek outside. Here you can see Africa coming up. We have just crossed the Atlantic Ocean, and out there is Africa. This is our Soyuz. It's going to take us home in a few days. Down there you can see it's the starboard part of the station. Those tanks are high pressure oxygen and nitrogen tanks. And behind there, you can't quite see it, but there's the airlock where we do spacewalks from. Looking aft, again, here's our lovely Soyuz. It's docked to MRM-1, which is of course part of the Russian segment of the space station. We are looking at the entire Russian segment. The very furthest away module is the service module. Moving around. Say hello to planet Earth. Of course, there's the reason why we call it the blue planet. If you take a peek outside at a random time, chances are you're gonna see ocean.
Look at this one.
This is the PMM, or Permanent Multi-Purpose Module. We just moved it here actually a couple of weeks ago. It used to be on the nadir position in Node 1, and now it's here, Node 3 forward. And it's mainly used, as you can probably guess, to store stuff. It probably looks a little bit messy to you, but it's not really. I mean, it's obviously very full, and sometimes it's a challenge to reach storage locations. You have to move a lot of stuff out of the way, but it's pretty well organized. Our inventory system records the location of everything. Our storage specialists on the ground are always able to direct us to the right place to find whatever we are looking for. Also, it's not my case, but some crew members like to take their shower in here. For me, it tends to be a little bit too cold for that. But for those who do shower in here, we have set up a curtain. In fact, Butch Wilmore, my Expedition 42 crewmate, he came up with this idea of setting up this curtain that can give you a little bit of privacy.
Lovely. Privacy. International Space Station. I want to click everything, but maybe you should try this yourself. Not missing me. There. We will continue. But the journey isn't hugely, and then we'll come back. Just have a little look around. Inside. This is starting to get a bit Space Odyssey now. It's just whizzing about our head.
Now, for half a year, there is a European visitor, which is the automated transfer vehicle, and this is connected on the backside of the space station. So this is the ATV number 3. And it brings a lot of cargo, but also water, for example, air, oxygen that is pumped to the space station. So it provides the space station with a lot of consumables, cargo, air, water, but also fuel. Behind here is the engine part. So this is pressurized, and behind this wall is the unpressurized section of ATV. And there, for example, we have the fuel tanks, because the fuel, which is also part of the transporter, but the fuel is used for boosting. So we have Progress, the Russian cargo ship, for fueling the engines of the space station and for boosting. But ATV has a great position to put the space station in a higher orbit, because we lose a bit of altitude every time. So here we are stowing it now with things we don't need anymore, be it foam, be it trash, and be it old pieces of equipment. And when it's full, after half a year, it disappears.
Responsible for the first human because you can do that in VR. I don't know if it's popular, I think that. Fantastic. So there you have a quick tour. Just learn another little bit.
This is an MWA, a maintenance work area. We have two of those. There is this one on the starboard wall of Node 2, and then there is one on the opposite wall over there. We use MWAs typically to do complex science or maintenance work where, you know, it's lengthy, it's complex. We want a nice work environment. We want to be able to secure this equipment. We want nothing to be floating away. This is the stowed position of the MWA. It's tucked against the wall, so it's out of the way. If we have to work on it, probably we want to deploy it to raise it up to a more comfortable angle. You could secure it, for example, here. Most likely you would want to bring it up a little bit, so it's more like a table. And then let's say I have a piece of equipment I want to work on and I want to secure it here. One option is bungees. So I would first of all attach rings like this one where I find them handy, for example here, and then a second one over there, for example, and then a bungee between the two. And then I could secure, for example, this if I had to do some work on it. We also use this general area to keep stuff that we use all the time. We want it handy. We don't want to have it to put it away all the time. For example, Sharpies, stopwatch, flashlights, Leatherman tool, clips, Velcro tags. Velcro is very important when stuff floats. So if you find something that doesn't have Velcro, you can quickly put a Velcro tab on it, and then it's easy to attach to a wall or the ceiling or the floor. Brake coat. We also keep a couple of tools actually, like this one with a 5/32 socket, and that's because we use them all the time. This is the type of socket that is used to remove the fasteners that secures the front panels of our racks, and that's because a lot of time there is stowage behind the front panels, and so we need to access the volume behind, or occasionally because we have to do some work on the equipment that's back there. When you're done, of course, you want to restow it so that
Space saving. Oh, okay. Hello.
if you have ever wondered how crew members of the space station always know where they are above the Earth, well, it's not because we are all so good at geography, at least I am not, but it's because we have World Map, which is a really cool software that runs on all of our station support computers, SSCs. We have about 20 of them spread throughout the space station. And it tells you just that, where you are. So you can see it has a map of the world, and the continuous pink line is the current orbit we are on, or the ground track of the current orbit we are on. And then the next two orbits are those two pink dotted lines. So here you can see, and then of course there is a drawing of the space station itself. So you can see that we left South America, we're over the Atlantic right now, and very soon we will be over Europe. You can also make, with World Map, very precise pass predictions. You can ask the software to tell you when in the coming days you will pass over a specific site. So let's see, I'm gonna pick a place in northern Italy, that's where I'm from, and I want to know when I will pass over northern Italy. See, it's in about 10 minutes, and the pass will last for about 10 minutes. It's almost a zenith pass. It's 82 degrees elevation, so we will almost be from Earth, we will be visible almost zenith in the sky. And I say that we will be visible because World Map also tells you where the terminator is, where is the line between day and night. And so you can tell that it's right about there over northern Italy. It means that when we will get there, On the ground it will be night, the sun will have set already, but up here on the space station for about 10 more minutes we will be illuminated by the sun, we will be bright. And so on the ground it will be night, you will be easily able to see us, a bright object moving in the sky. For us, of course, those passes are not good to take pictures because we are illuminated by the sun. On the ground it's dark, we only see black, we don't see anything. What World Map can do also is to show you a view of how things will look from your window. You can select, for example, let's say the view out of the window, and let's select the cupola, which is typically where we take pictures from. And this is how things will look from the cupola, from the forward window and the zenith window. Of course, now it's kind of boring because we're over the Atlantic, so you only see water everywhere. It even shows you where our Soyuz is.
Beautiful. So there you go. That is a quick tour of the International Space Station. Yeah. Thanks very much for joining me in space. Learning stuff. Do we do the door or the stuff?
This is BioLab, the science right here in Columbus, which is dedicated to life sciences. It has a built-in microscope, a centrifuge with 2 rotors in here. Over there, 2 temperature-controlled units where we can keep samples at a controlled temperature. And here, behind this cover, a glove box. I'll slide it out for you. Basically, a glove box allows you to put your hands inside this volume, but using gloves that are built in, and that way you can manipulate samples that could be dangerous and should not come in contact with the atmosphere of the station. And I worked quite a lot on BioLab during the Futura mission as part of the experiment Triple Looks.
Fantastic. There we go. Thank you very much once again for joining. Hope you find that as fascinating as I did. Well, where are you? Look up. You might see a little light in the sky. The aliens. Love ya. Bye-bye.